Hello, this is Julian Gonzalez, giving you a summary for Chapter 2. This course is Ethics Online, Philosophy 206. My email is jgonzalez@kckcc.edu. So in Chapter 2, it starts with the notion of didactic stories. These are stories that are told to teach moral lessons. A famous example in our culture is The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Essentially, a child calls wolf to the townspeople. There's a wolf, and they come out, and the joy laughs and plays in the sense that, I got you, I fooled you, I lied, there actually is no wolf. Then finally, when there is a wolf, he cries wolf, but the townspeople don't come to his cries in order to avoid getting humiliated again. Think about some stories that you were told as a kid that are similar to such ideas, where you learn a moral lesson. Another notion of didactic stories is myths. So there's two main purposes in myths. One is it strengthens social bonding of people, so you feel more connected to your culture or community. In addition, it fortifies the individual psychologically, so you get sort of justification in the ways you think, justifications in the ways you believe. Traditional myths combine ethics of conduct and virtue ethics. Sort of a way of saying, look, these are the virtues, these are what make you good people, and these are the conduct or the actions that make you a good person. So, role models are characters who teach us a moral lesson. A lot of times we see this in examples of superhero movies, so Superman and Spider-Man. These are people who try to have a moral compass that guides them, a moral standing, and they fight for what they believe is right. And they're constantly having these moral dilemmas and ideas of how to be a better person. So they kind of act as these role models. Now we also have role models in a personal sense, where we have individuals who we look up to in our lives, maybe our family members or friends or a mentor, and they also could teach us some moral lessons. But in literature, we have examples in pop culture such as Superman and Spider-Man. So I want to focus in on two authors in this particular chapter, Plato and Aristotle. So Plato on art. So Plato and Aristotle debated on art, and they have two opposing viewpoints. Plato claimed that art was bad for people. Drama specifically inspired violent emotions. And when I say drama here, I mean plays. You could think of it as theater. But probably in modern society, we probably have things like movies or examples of these sort of dramas. The storylines within a particular video game or computer game also have these dramatic storylines. And according to Plato, these sort of storylines, these dramatic portrayals, have these sort of hold over us that produces emotions that he deems are not very good for us. So the ideal life, according to Plato, is a balance, and that balance is balance in harmony. An upset balance is a less perfect life, according to Plato. So a balance would be, you don't have enough reason and emotion balance. There's too much emotion, so that sort of has a disharmony effect on yourself. So you can imagine the times that something really affects you negatively, emotionally speaking, and how it sort of ruins your day, ruins your week, month perhaps, and it has a hold over you. Plato would say there's a disbalance there, a disharmony almost, upon your character, upon your personhood. You're not able to focus because you don't have enough rationality, or you have too much emotion. So reason, or rationale, keeps a person in balance according to Plato. Emotions mean reason is diminished. In addition to that, Plato believed in censorship since people don't know what is good or bad for themselves. So he would look at our culture and look at most people and say, look, there needs to be a sort of censorship placed upon you. what you experience in your life, so that you don't have the temptation to act a certain way or to learn behavior that is deemed unacceptable or immoral according to Plato's standards. So Aristotle on art. So Aristotle enjoyed art and drama and theater. He wrote 2 books specifically on theater, the Poetics. Part 1, or Volume 1, is an analysis and prescription for writing good tragedies, and this is one of your primary readings that I had you read. Part 2 is the proper writing of comedies, and this is lost. According to our text, it hasn't been known since the Middle Ages, essentially. Art is good according to Aristotle. It allows people to act out emotions vicariously. So this means sort of like a sensation, like you see somebody have a very good experience, and that makes you feel good as well. Like, okay, I feel good for that person, sort of that sense. Or you feel maybe there's someone that you don't like that you see have a bad experience, and you feel like they deserve that, and that produces an emotion as well in you. Or a friend or family member who gets really ill, and you start feeling bad for that person. You kind of have these emotions that are played out within you, that are produced from somebody else's experiences. So art also has this effect. It produces within you certain emotions. A good play is detox and a purging of bad emotions. So Aristotle thinks there are bad emotions, just like Plato did. I think in Plato's view, though, he thought too much emotion was bad, whereas in Aristotle's view, there are certain emotions that would be healthy for an individual. So if you watch a good play, according to Aristotle, maybe a great movie for you, or a really good video game storyline, it sort of allows you to empty yourself of emptying a pressure of sorts of bad emotion within you. Continuing on that, after a play, you have a calmer self. Experiencing stage violence creates a cathartic effect, according to Aristotle. Sort of a weight is lifted off your chest. So in the Poetics, he says, best tragic plays are when an ordinary person makes a monumental error in judgment. And we see these in different stories. I'm not going to go through what examples are played out in the text, but just a sense that a completely ordinary person, just like you or I, making a sort of error in their rationality, maybe, or what's presented in them, and then making a judgment regarding these sort of errors, and seeing what sort of havoc is produced out of this. So he says that this is the best sort of play or drama that can be experienced. Continuing on Aristotle, a play or a drama is a moral learning experience. It's a moral laboratory of sorts in that our inner urges are acted out and they produce cautionary tales. So you see an example of an individual in a movie when they do something wrong and it produces a bad outcome. You learn from that. That's a cautionary tale. It also, you get to see sort of exaggerated versions of your personality, perhaps. So something like a Seinfeld is very exaggerated. People don't actually act like that, but you get to see it acted out. And that's almost a release and a laboratory, Aristotle would say, a moral laboratory, because you get to see it played out on the screen. A quality tragedy is better without special effects. It's better when it's simply a better storyline. So I like to pose the question, so do you agree? Would you see Star Wars the same if it had 0 special effects, no lightsabers, or maybe instead they use actual wooden swords? Like you saw a play version of Star Wars. Back in my younger years, I had friends that would perform theater, but they would be scripted versions of movies. So live action versions of Alien, Die Hard, so Back to the Future, but it's played out on the theater, on the stage. If it's a good storyline, it should be as enjoyable, perhaps, even without the special effects. And Aristotle in his time, there was probably special props or something like that that could make a little bit more lively scene. But in Aristotle's viewpoint, it would actually be preferred to just have a very good storyline and very good dialogue. So Plato's Republic, written in 400 before Common Experience, it's an argument that plays are bad for the mind. It's written in dialogue style. That's why it's weird to read. If you read it, you don't really get a sense that it's really a dialogue, but there should be sort of, Plato speaks here, Glaucon speaks here kind of deal. But that's why it reads a little weird. It's actually supposed to be a dialogue between two humans. So dramas are about people's actions and the luck they find or the misfortune they find. Mistaken judgments lead to misfortune. So it's the sense that, you think something is one way, but it's actually the other, and then havoc ensues out of your action that you produced in reaction to the judgment. It's better to use reason in Plato's viewpoint, not emotions. And dramas promote the use of emotions. This is why he does not like dramas. So Aristotle's Poetics, also written in 400 BCE, argues that dramas or plays are beneficial. Enjoying fiction is natural as it imitates life. A play or fictional tale imitates life. Watching movies may allow us to exercise emotions we normally may not use. Thus, it has a catharsis effect. Remember, it's like a weight off our shoulders kind of deal. The best stories are acted out. Theater, since they don't rely on special effects. So theater would be the best sense of experiencing a story. Tragic plays are pleasurable because of the pity and fear produced. So it allows us to sense these emotions we probably normally wouldn't sense in our lives. So perhaps movies fit into this category. I don't know if they allow us to have this sort of feeling. Poetry or the written word can only imitate it, but it doesn't actually produce it. There's something in seeing individuals react and have that sense of fear. So you watch a horror movie, you get scared. You don't really normally have those sensations. Some people who would criticize this theory might say something like, we become jaded actually to these emotions if we experience too much. We're overstimulated by senses of horror, shame, something like that. So now we don't feel it anymore. So that might be one example of a critique to Aristotle's Poetics. And I'll leave you with that a thought. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you.